down.
Today's episode, I'm going to be showing you how to change a battery.
All right, out at the smoker. Took the back off the LG refrigerator. All right, Four Boys Garage back here, and we're literally working on the new garage. We're going to be putting up the garage doors. We've already got 2 up, and we thought that maybe many people don't realize how easy these are to do. It certainly helped getting the first one in, doing all the reading and figuring out, but one of the things we were hung up on in the beginning was the framing itself. And what you really want to do is put in a 2x4 like this one, which is flush with the outside wall framing here. And then in our case, we had to drop a 2x treated down for the way that we had got the block done here. But we ran that all the way to the top. This is a 10-foot wall. And then we had a 2x4 run across the header. And we have a piece we'll have to add for the opener in the middle when we're done, but we also have a little block we have to put right there in that corner when the track and spring brackets and things go on there. So I'm sure this could have been done maybe differently. I did see where some people don't go all the way up. I like the idea of going all the way up, so that's what we did. But our opening, this is going to be a 9-foot wide door. So we started with about 9 foot 4.5 from block to block. So we had enough room to drop in a 2x treated on each side, which put us to a little over about 9 foot 1.5. And then we have room for a 3/4 trim, but we're putting things in a little early here. We don't even have the concrete in yet. So we're going to use these to represent the finished floor height, which we figured out. We're going to have finished floor. We've also got our treated running to about that height. These doors are going to have a frost lip down here, so the actual door will be about 3/4 of an inch lower than the actual top of slab. And that's actually what this height represents. The actual slab will be another 3/4 taller than that, but that's our handy dandy shim pack to hold the door at the height we want to be for now. So anyway, we just wanted to kind of shoot this video talking a little bit about the process. It's not meant to be a full in-depth installation how-to. I mean, I feel like if you're relatively mechanically inclined and have the tools and more importantly the will, you could do this. And I wasn't sure if we'd be able to. You know, people talk about how dangerous these things are when you mess with them, but I don't know if that's one of those myths out there to get people to not do their own work, so that you have to pay somebody. But we're doing it. We've done 2 already, and we've got them up down here. Thought we'd go ahead and share a little bit of what we learned along the way. So we'll get into it. Want to clarify real quick. I think I breezed over it. We have a 2x4 as a temporary placeholder for our exterior trim, which we don't have on yet. But we just need something for the doors to rest against right now to keep them from tipping out while we set the panels in place. And then we'll have to, once this thing is fully installed, we get to the point where we can put the trim on. We'll pop this guy back off and put the trim on in his place. So for now, it's just basically a temporary placeholder. Just something to lean the panels against. We kind of breezed over the fact of how early we're putting these doors in, but we just want to block it up. Leaves are starting to fall. It's starting to get cool. Want to close up these holes, keep the leaves and maybe some stink bugs out. It'd be great. All right, we have our panels here on a set of horses. This was a bundle of 3. These are 8-foot tall doors, so we have 5 panels total. and the 3 middle panels are actually shorter. Only, what are they? About 18 inches, and our top and bottom panel are 21. These units have glass on the top panel, so we've got sort of our working set of horses here where we can put a panel. In this case, this is the bottom panel. It's got your seal. This back door will not have any glass, but it's kind of need a spot you can work on and install your hinges. In this case, your hinges are all numbered. The bottom panel is going to be number 1s on the sides and the middle, and as you go up, these side hinges will progress to number 2, number 3, number 4 as they step out, so that your door can angle away from your opening. But your middle panel will always remain a 1 because they're just flat. But you kind of want to have several sets of horses. In our case, the bottom and top panels came together, so we had to have a place to move an extra panel here and let it sit for a while. And see, a little squirrel went. Literally, a squirrel just ran across there. Anyway, so in our case, we have 3 sets of horses that we're using to sort of hold everything, get these, up off the ground, to open them and unpack them, and also cut. And they had them like wrapped up tight, like shrink wrap. So just opening them was a process, and of course we don't want to scratch. These are colored, but we don't want to scratch the finish sticking a knife blade in there. But just, have some space, and several sets of horses is very helpful. We got the laser set up so that we can keep shooting our height because we're working before a finished floor. So that's sort of the overview of the setup, and really now it's just sort of getting into starting on panels. So we'll get going. When you're installing these hinges, aside from the fact that they're numbered, this is number 1, these holes in the door are pre-punched. So they're already there. It's really just a matter of lining them up. We've always put the number 1 facing up. Not sure if that matters or not, but on the others it seems to, so that's what we've been doing. But this being the first panel is all number 1s. It's really just a matter of getting them lined up and running in these self-drilling, not self-drilling, self-tapping screws, I guess. They do come with some drill tip screws for various other purposes, but not for the hinges. And really, it's just a matter of putting these on. That one's on. All right, we got all 3 of these hinges on the bottom panel. All we have left to do is carry it over and set it in place. And something that's really important is making sure you're plumb on your sides and level on your bottom. In our case, these are level with each other. We've shot them with the laser to confirm, but we have 2 stacks of exact same height sitting on top of perfectly level block. So we're level, and we put our level on to confirm once the first panel's on, and we'll show that in a second. All right, we don't have a tripod set up, so we weren't able to record actually carrying it over and setting it down. And I was going to kind of briefly touch on again these shim blocks we have. I am not recommending this as a necessarily good idea. It's just the circumstance we're in, and it's proof that it's possible. But it is critical that you've got to be able to know exactly where your finished floor will be. In our case, we even are including the drop down of 3/4 of an inch for the frost slip that's going to go in. But we got this thing carried over and centered up. We're about 7/8 on each side here, but you can see why we had to add this, because it actually wouldn't rest against our framing. We don't have the trim on yet, but if the trim were there, it would rest against the trim, and then of course there'd be an additional weather strip piece that would be in there. But we just tack these in. We're using a 16, kind of at an angle, and it holds it, you know, in place long enough to get the next one. I've seen this as a recommended method temporarily, but I've added my own little tweak. It's a little breezy for us. So what we've been doing is adding a little piece of OSB and then driving the screw into the framing, and it's really kind of pinching down on these because we'll actually stack these up to the top before we can drop the track on. So that'll be coming up here in a bit. But really it's about getting your hinges on. In this case, we gotta get our bottom bracket on too. But we dropped the wheel in there before we screw it on, because the way we set this up is that the door's kind of sitting back in this little pocket, you know, recessed instead of protruding in from the block foundation. It's kind of tucked in nice. I'll go over and shoot a clip of the other one to kind of finish so you can see that. But we got to get those on, tuck the wheel in there, and get those screwed on, and then just start stacking these panels. There's a quick shot of one of the sides that's done, how this is tucked in. I know sometimes you can cut back on your poured walls or your block walls, but since we were managing this thing from the beginning here, we did the block and everything, we set it up to just frame down the treated there, and that gave us enough room to drop the track in. If I had to do over again, I would have made them a little wider, just to have a little bit more breathing room. We can always add wood. When we went to actually do this, we saw how close we were going to be, almost touching the block there. So it worked out really good, but it was kind of sketchy looking for a second. But anyway, that's sort of the detail on that. That's how this last one will finish. All right, I got in a hurry here and put my bottom nail a little too low, so I had to pull them to get them out of the way. But when you put these bottom brackets on, make sure engage those safety tabs into here. This is where the cable will be pulling on, and like I was saying, we have to get our wheel on this one and get them put into place here. So when I get to that, I just want to make sure to cover those safety tabs. Important detail. Bottom brackets on, wheels in. Wheels go in these last. After all the panels are stacked, it's just a matter of setting panels now. So we're going to start stacking them up. Stacking them and tacking them. About every other panel we're putting one of these. Alright, second panel. Hinge number 2 on the outside. Hinge number 1 in the middle. It's always flat. Number 2. Next panel will be 3s. And this bundle of 3 panels, there's no difference in them at all. There's a top, bottom, and every middle panel for us is the same. So unless you have glass in one of your panels besides the top, should be same situation. But you can see on these hinges, what's happening is the wheels are starting to step back, and it's noticeable from hinge to hinge. So it's hard to mix them up, but just want to make sure that that's one of those things that's clear. Certainly don't want to get things assembled and have right at the very end you figure out you got them mixed up. So certainly easy to make a mistake. That's why I want to make sure to emphasize it, so we probably won't do that again since we've done it now. But it's really just a matter of taking this panel and stacking them on there. We're going to go ahead and take those hinges and attach them to the bottom of this panel once it's set. All right, make sure your edges are flush. Flip up your hinge. I like to get a good eye on these holes and make sure they're lined up. Whoop. Sliding pretty easy. They're lined up pretty good, so those two attach to each other, and then so on. Second panel up, hinges are attached to it, and then it's a good time to kind of throw this on here, get a good double check at what we got going on, make sure that we're still riding level, and kind of double check the reveal that we're still centered in the opening here, so we're in good shape. Holds it really secure on a breezy day. Alright, when you get to the top, you'll have not a hinge, but just basically a wheel bracket, but it doesn't use the hinge holes anymore. In our case, the top hole lines up with the bottom hinge hole. And there'll be a couple of more down here that will line up because we have reinforcing bar in our area. We only need the one really just for the garage door opener. Kind of distributes that pull, and then of course there's this reinforced bracket that goes on for us, and this actually goes over the previous hinge, which I go ahead and installed anyway, and then I'll take it off when we install this. I'll slip it behind this and then reattach it to the previous panel and then attach it to this panel. It's just one little quick trick that I found that helped me out, but this guy comes along with some self drilling, self tapping screws. We only get I think we only get, yeah, we get this, sorry, this top one right there. Where is he? Oh, right there. That we'll get on each end, and then of course this one's got to be a self drilling. And at least my directions say only in the hinge locations, which I'm assuming is this middle area, at least on each end, must be reinforced. And I can't really tell, but when you look at the ends of these, and this actually, since we're on the edge here together, one of the things I regret, and I find that on YouTube when I'm watching a lot, I like to know what people regret or what they would do differently. And this is only an 1 3/8" door, and you can see it's got polystyrene, the foamy white little balls that are messy. I'm really kicking myself for not going with the 2-inch door. This is an R6.5 door, and I think it was only like $150 per door to get to an R9, which was a totally different foam. I think that was, what is that stuff? I'm short on the name, but the other type of foam, a little similar to what would be spray foam type, or some of your high quality foam boards have that, but it's like flame resistant too. But anyway, for very minimal, it was been a substantial R value upgrade. I didn't really price the full 2-inch. They have an R18 version of this door, which is, you know, really good insulating. We're going to be heating this barn, so I'm just kicking myself for not doing it, for not springing for the extra. And I thought was interesting too, we got these doors from Menards, and I had already looked it up, but they're actually a Clopay door. So I thought that was interesting. They sell them under the brand Ideal at Menards, but they're coming out of the Clopay plant, and they're not even hiding it right on your door. So at any rate, that's a little interesting tidbit, but they seem like pretty good doors for what they are, as much as I wanted to spend. But I am kicking myself for not going ahead and upgrading that insulation. So we're to our last panel here. Just kind of wanted to skim over the extra hardware that goes on this door that was not on the others, obviously. So this one's a little trickier to get in, a little more drilling and things, but we'll get this all put together and we'll get it up there. All right, top panel on. Kind of see we've got our braces. Not necessarily every other one, but just kind of where it felt right. doing a good job at holding them. Very secure right now. And what we'll do is one side at a time, we'll come back and kind of pull all this stuff once we get the wheels dropped in, and we'll drop the track down. But I just kind of wanted to get a quick shot of it. Literally standing there on its own, you know, with very minimal or what seemed like sketchy support, but it's doing pretty good. Wind calmed down a little bit here, but these definitely are a must if you're going to have any gusty winds or breeze. And with a door in the back here and doors up front, this kind of becomes like a wind tunnel. So there's, you know, a little bit of pressure. That's kind of why we came up with that. It's a good little alternative to only nails. So there's that. Now we're going to get the rollers dropped in. And just a quick tip on these. You know, you always want to make sure your roller is in the tube that's furthest away from the door. Because this is actually just the hinge anyway. And that's the holder there for the wheel. So same there. And then of course down low in your number one, there's only one spot. That's what matters. But drop wheels in and we're ready to drop track and get on to the more interesting stuff, like the springs. The detail of these tracks, I had a hard time finding much detail on them, but this is the left side here. This flat side will always be to the exterior, and sort of the curved side for the wheel to ride in is definitely the interior. So that sort of makes your left, and then of course the same on the other side would be your right. This has the knockouts for the locks down low in a reachable position versus if you flip them over, they would be higher. So that also kind of helps. I thought that was great thing to point out the detail on. And of course this is set up with a 15-inch radius, and that's kind of the joint where they meet each other there. Springs and drums, cable drums and that, but just wanted to do a good detailed shot of this. I know that it can be a little more confusing. I had those brackets up top there flipped over, flipped up. I don't know if it made a difference or not, but later on I found a lot of images, including the door on the house, that had them this way. But I had a real hard time telling which way they should go because they can install a multitude of ways. Now, I have not been able to see anything that would matter. There's no interference problem. I don't know if that lag bolt maybe would have had trouble adjusting later. I'm not sure, but anyway, I just want to get a good detailed shot of that. Might help somebody. All right, we have our tracks here with our brackets kind of loosely assembled. These are also numbered. In our case, it goes from a 1 to a 3 to a 4. Obviously, then there's the flag bracket. Don't really know why that is, but it works. This is an 8-foot tall door, so it's a little taller than normal. But anyway, we have I got everything hanging on here, sort of loosely attached, that we can get it dropped on the rollers here and pushed against the wall, and then we can kind of get everything where we want it, drill it in, and secure it with some lags. Got our temporary lighting. Still don't have all the electric done yet. All right, we got the track on. It's not fully bolted down, but we've got two, and that should keep it from pushing in. With the angled nail, you're able to leave them in place while the track is on. The only thing that you can't leave, and at least in our case, is the piece of OSB we put on there, but that's fine, you know, just for the brief moment that we take those off. We're a little more vulnerable to the breeze, but immediately we're throwing the track on there. And then I think we got a clip. I was just measuring off of our laser line. We've got the rotary laser out there. And we're just kind of making sure that these are level with each other, which is important, particularly at the top. But also, we've got a measurement from our other doors and slab height that we're meeting, and we're a little high. Our bottom roller is barely hanging in there, but that bracket is just at the top of the block, so we're kind of going with the track being a little bit higher. I think the track itself is maybe a ½ inch higher than, yeah, I think a quarter to ½ inch higher than it could be. I think they said about a ½ inch off of your concrete height, which I think puts us to about 3/4 roughly to an inch, somewhere higher than where the concrete will be. But I'm not real worried about that. I mean, once the concrete's there, it's not like the roller can never come out. It's in there. It's just barely in there. But that's that. Now we've got to get to assembling our horizontal tracks, attaching them up there, and then get to doing bracing, the hanger bracing for the track. All right, up here we installed this L bracket here loosely before we put up the horizontal track, just for a little less assembly, and then we left it loose until we get this connection made and the track level. We should have a clip of that. We threw a 6-footer up there, and then we go ahead and threw this spring mount. This holds the bar while we're up here, but we had to add a little block here I talked about earlier, and what we've done here is we just tack it on to the header with 2 nails, but we're actually just through bolting it. We're going to use 3-inch lags, and we pre-drilled that block so that it won't split with a 5/16 bit, since we're using a 5/16 lag, and then we're just pre-drilling with a 3/16 into the header, and then we'll run these 3-inch lags in here. So I don't know what the framing should be like here, but this is what we had to do to make ours work. But we're going to go ahead and through bolt it and get into that 2x12 hanger there, or header rather. But when you're dropping this horizontal track on, you'll find that you need to adjust out this top roller bracket to get your door tight against the surface there, and it can be tight, it's fine. As soon as this thing moves, it creates separation because it's in an angle away from, it's hard to tell there. It's hard to tell, but you can see it tapers with the hinges, obviously, so that it slightly tapers into your, I guess, temporary framing in our case, but it'd be your weather stripping or your exterior trim if you're replacing a door. But anyway, this is a little, I guess, more in depth about a new installation, and of course there'll be pieces and parts may not apply to you. All doors aren't the same, but this is a standard spring on this one, which is I've never worked with before. I had to repair ours on the house before once, but that had like a weird spring that was inside of a tube. It was really weird, but really wasn't that difficult to repair that one when it broke. Guessing it was 20, 30 years old. I don't know. We bought this house and it was here. So that's a little more of a detailed look at this up top here. The next hardware that will go over here will be when we're hanging the bar. Also, we're using a green laser square. It's like a 3-plane 360-degree laser, and that's giving us a line on the ceiling, and we're using that line to put a screw in line with the track, and then we just put a ratchet strap on there to hold us temporarily so that we could get level, and it would hold it level. And then of course we'll install our rear hangers here, and then we'll be able to take that strap down once it's mounted up. So just kind of a nice little trick, be adjustable. I'd seen where somebody used rope, and I thought a ratchet strap was a lot better. We're able to adjust to level in one small click at a time, so it helps a lot. It's a good trick. And you do need to be square. We're using a laser. If you don't have a laser like this, you could probably just get a really accurate measurement from your track to the wall, and from this end of the track to the wall, and that should get you pretty close. And then of course at the end you can measure your diagonals, and we'll go into more detail when we get there on that, but that should get you pretty close. And you may want to leave your whatever you use. A lot of people use that punched angle with bolts, and I think there's some elongated holes in there you could use to adjust. We're using wood because it was going to be about $150 worth of metal or $10 worth of 2x4s. So we're just cutting up some 2x4s for now and making our rear hanger braces. You can see right there, see the temp lighting hanging. There's a good shot of our hangers, what we're doing, and only costs a few bucks each. The theory is, if we've got one plane of our laser on this edge of the track, making contact with that edge of the track, the other plane, in this case we're about 3/16 of an inch off of the track, then we should be 3/16 off of the track up top here at the hanger support. So we should be pretty square if all of that is in fact true. And we've been pretty close. We've had to bump one, I think, 1/4 of an inch on our diagonals. So, but it got us super close to be able to hang everything with the laser. So I definitely recommend it if you have one. It's handy. I mean, we put the screw itself right on the laser line so that the ratchet strap is hanging plumb down on it. And then of course, having that line back here, you know, floating in midair if you want it. It's really nice too. So if you got one, use it. If you don't, maybe it's time to go get one. Also worth noting, kind of getting our framing in place and popping a couple finish nails in it just to hold it until we can drill and screw. And we're screwing this right now with just regular screws, hopeful that if the inspector's okay with it, maybe his only problem will be with the screws we're using. Hopefully he won't give us any issues about not having metal. I don't know why. There shouldn't be that much force on this. It should all just be hanging down. And the way these are fastened, we're going to through bolt this through the wood with a 3/8 inch bolt. And then of course you gotta, for your safety stop, you gotta make sure to be out about an extra inch from the track so that the wheels can't roll off the end. If somebody let the door fly, it would hit those bolts and stop it from shooting off the end. So anyway, that's why we're drilling and screwing. If we do have to switch to metal, make it easier to take apart. If we just need to switch the screws, we can do them one at a time and use an engineered screw, which I'm hoping is the only beef he may have. But there's a lot of fasteners in here. This door is not very heavy. I don't know what the total weight is, but it can't be that much. Divided between two of these, I would imagine, is plenty. But anyway, if you have a finish nailer, it helps. You can hold things, pop a nail in it, it'll hold it while you drill it. I get it wrapped around, man. Just get it wrapped around because it doesn't matter how high anything. You need to move on. I don't want to be tired of holding it now. You can hold the strap. Yep. So, you release this up.
My strap's so greasy.
Coat it with oil, man. Hope it not corrode. I mean, once we're done installing it, it's going to be touched again. Ooh. There's just a coating of oil that they put on metal. Keeps it from corroding. They do it to brake rotors even. You gotta hose them down with brake parts cleaners.
What's that, Cam? What is that?
Oh, we didn't know how to do that gun. At the time it was looking super sketch, so we just got it in and figured we'd circle back around to it. If you're able to plug in, can you plug in an extension cord and just
What, lined up?
yeah, I mean, or do you even need power? Cam. Yeah. Did you hear anything I just said? Why not? I mean, you couldn't hear, or you could hear and just didn't think it was for you?
I could hear, but I didn't think it was for me. What do you ask? That says that's one clip.
Alright, sweet, so measurements and I'll cut down.
It's not all there is. There's this brackets and stuff here. Gotta do one more. One more.
One more even? How many more?
It's like a half inch out of level. You go eat. Huh? Do you?
Yeah.
All right, four boys back here next day, and we still have to do the spring. We worked late on this last night. Main goal, we started late, was just to get this in and secure. Got both tracks up, and was kind of thinking about another trick or suggestion. If you don't have the 3-plane laser square like we do, that does 360 degrees, which that's what we were using to square from track to track, and then give us a line to this. You can use good old math and measure from here, the very end of the track. I've been measuring to that corner, to here, and then from here to here. And the old a squared plus b squared equals c squared gives you the diagonal dimension that then you can measure from that little corner to that corner, and it should let you know where you're at. And you could just move back and forth until you get to where the math says you should be. So don't forget about that. As a good alternative. We did it just to verify where we're at. We're within an eighth, so I think that's pretty good. Actually, on both, we're within an eighth of an inch, and both of them are shy of an eighth. I don't know why. I think our diagonal was 154.5, and we're at 154 3/8 on both. Really weird, but square. So whatever. Probably mismeasured something by an eighth when we started, I guess. But just want to drop that in there as one more thing. We're going to get started on this spring. All right, here we got our torsion bar on the horses. We had to put a coupler in there. It's a 10-foot, I'm sorry, this one's a 9-foot door. The others were 10 wide. So we've got like a 2-piece bar, but only has one torsion spring. So Spring goes on the long side for us, but they got this like crazy coupler. I've never seen a setup like this. I mean, I've maybe not paid that much attention. I don't know. I don't know if this is normal. Not sure why you couldn't just send one piece bar, but it definitely seems to do the job and is sturdy, especially after this really well-fitting coupler is on there. I mean, it fits really snug. You get it all the way in, but we got to drill it and run those screws in, and now it's time to get the rest of the hardware on. All right, we got our cable drum on here and our bearing support, and down there we have the left side, which is red color code, and the right side is the black color code for us. So I guess keep that in mind, that yours may be color coded, so you want to make sure you get them on the correct sides. But really it's just a matter of hoisting this thing up into place now and centering the bar between the two bar support brackets up there, and then threading the cables, tightening things down, and put some tension on the spring. So we'll kind of get a little close up on those steps as we do them. All right, we're up here on this left side, and you got to get the, can't see the screen, I hope it's focusing there, but you got to get the end in the side here of the drum, and then I've been giving it a little crease, bend it around there. Sorry, there we go. I've been kind of creasing it right there so it'll lay down, and then obviously you got to thread right down this gap all the way down and hook the loop on the bottom bracket. But once you do that, you just kind of roll this until you have all the easy slack out, is what I've been doing, just where it's barely taut, and then tighten one set screw. We can't reach the other one here very well. Oh yeah, we will. Yeah, we can. So we might be able to get them both. But if you can't access them both, just get one tightened, and you put most of your winds on the spring. You can raise the door a little bit until you can access the other one, just where you can raise the door up. Enough winds on the spring to where you can raise it up. For us, on the other doors, it was 12 3/4 turns on our spring. I gotta check the chart on this one, only being a 9-foot door. I'm sure it's less, like 11, maybe 11 turns, but you get to like 8 or 9 turns and the door will be light enough to lift a little bit and be able to tighten that thing. That's what we've been doing. Not sure if that's the recommended way, but it works. So yeah, gonna get these things snugged up, get the other cable routed and threaded around the drum and snugged up, and then we'll be turning the spring. One more note here, the top bracket, we had to loosen in order to get the horizontal track on. The wheel was too forward and we had to release it, and of course we need to anyway because we need to get this top panel back here against the framing, or in your case it might be your exterior trim. We have a temporary placeholder so we can get this thing closed up, but that never got retightened. So go around, double check things before you start tightening up on your spring. We got both of our cables hooked up to the drums and snugged, and another one of the four boys held the left side while I did the right side, so we have them both equally snugged. I think it's really important. They don't really talk about it being really important, but you probably want just as much pull on each side. Another thing we found was that we had to cut our torsion bar. It's too long, way too long, and they said just about 9 inches longer than the width of the door. Not sure why they couldn't send it to us already sized. It's already in two pieces, but that was the case. Another thing to make sure is that your cable drum is against the bracket, and then pull on the other side to ensure that they're both sitting against the bracket so that the torsion bar has no side to side movement. I'm sure it would mess up the alignment of these and get off the grooves, but now it's time to fire up this winding unit. And this door, even though it's only 9 foot wide versus the other at 10, it's still 8 foot tall, so they want 12 3/4 turns, same amount of turns. So for us, 12 3/4, we're going to get the winding. Make sure you put your bar retainer on there. Ours was just like this nylon little carriage bolt. Yep. Getting in a hurry, almost forgot. Pretty important piece to keep this thing from exploding. We gotta watch that line. That's our first full revolution. And you can see how many winds you have in the spring by how many spaces there are. We'll get some more winds on here and give you a look. All right, we have 4 winds on here. So we have 1 space, 2, 3, 4. Strange, but it does always correspond. So we should have 12 3/4. We're going to finish our winds up here. All right. Had to do some adjusting to our temporary door stops there on the outside. They're hanging in just a skosh. About 1/8 of an inch actually in one spot. And we had to smack it back because we couldn't adjust the track out anymore. And that's how we actually figured out that's what was going on. But got her all tuned up. Now she's open like a champ. A test run. All right, there it is. So nice. Hey, hopefully this helps you install your overhead door. A couple little tips and tricks. Definitely recommend the easy wind unit there on this thing for their torsion spring. Makes it a real cinch to do. So 3 doors in, we're almost pros now. 4 boys out.